Hello everyone and welcome back to Chrono Clock. Let's continue. The police came after a while and sorted out the incident. Basically, Mitu had almost been struck from behind by a bike, but Misaki managed to save her. I left the remaining things to sort out on Michiru's end to our servants at home. Michiru seemed to be alright, but just to be certain of that, we had her driven to the hospital. In the meantime, Misaki was homebound herself, so I ended up coming along with her.
ごめんね、先輩。わざわざここまで付き合わせちゃって。
It's not a big deal. I'm more worried about letting you go home on your own. You saved Michiru after all. I owe you my life.
恩人って大げさよ。友達を助けるのは当然でしょ。それに、私だって先輩の電話がなかったらもっとひどいことになってたわけだし、ミチルを連れ出したことも含めれば、むしろ私がお礼を言う立場でしょ。
You don't need to thank... What do you mean, much worse for you? Are you hurt? As I asked, she turned her eyes away from me.
大げさにするほどじゃないからね。ちょっと手首をひねっただけで。
Your wrist. Hey, that's real fucking bad, isn't it? Misaki tried to hide her right wrist. I didn't know how bad an injury it was, but with something like that, it was undoubtedly going to have an effect on her violent practice.
どうだろう。聞いてみないとわからないけど、まずいかもね。
Misaki cast her eyes downward with a troubled expression. She showed no signs of passing the buck regarding her injury. Nor did she seem to regret taking the fall for Michiru and suffering an injury herself. Why didn't you say anything about this before?
ミチルと先輩に負い目を感じてほしくなかったとかじゃないからね。さっきは怪我に気づかなかったし、今だってそんなに痛くないから。
I was too careless. I'm sorry, Misaki.
なんで先輩が謝るのよ。どこも悪くないでしょ。
I'm not in the wrong. Is that really true, though? Maybe if I did better, I could have prevented her from getting hurt. Instead, her injury probably got worse because of me.
それは考えすぎだぞ。ご主人が言い含めておらねば、前回の光景が再現されたであろうな。むしろ、これほどの軽傷で収めたお主は、称賛されても良いだろう。
Crow appeared out of nowhere, then promptly disappeared after saying her piece. She must have been worried about me. Crow had done nothing but help me out today. She was right. There was no point in getting depressed over this. The person who got the short end of the stick here was the one who got into the accident, the one who was actually injured, Misaki herself. And she wasn't asking for an apology. Say, Misaki, just let me know if there's anything I can do.
なんでもって先輩が気に病まなくても。
That's not my point. I immediately cut Misaki off. We were both stuck in an endless loop of apologies that kept making things more awkward. I needed to break that loop. I want you to rely on me when you're troubled by something. After all, isn't it only natural for me to be worried about the girl I love?
そっか。
Misaki's voice became slightly more cheerful. Although she had her head down, she held out her hand to me like always.
手がつなげないのはすっごく問題かもね。
I can carry your bag for you. That way we can hold hands.
そうね。ありがとう。
She raised her head up again with a smile. It was a forced smile, the kind that was trying to tell me not to worry about her.
でも困ったな。コンクールまでに治るといいんだけど。
Yeah. I couldn't just carelessly tell her she'd be fine. And bringing up how she could just wait for another opportunity would just be irresponsible. Just try to rest up for now, alright? You definitely don't want to do anything to make it even worse.
そうよね。出場できなくなったら優勝も何もないんだし。
Misaki nodded at me in agreement, but I still couldn't help but feel something didn't seem right. Misaki, were you practicing to win the contest all along?
当たり前じゃない。それ以外に理由があるの？
It hasn't seemed like that's been your reason lately, though. You were performing for your own enjoyment, and you wanted to get better because you just liked doing it. I couldn't help but wonder if actually winning ended up being your second priority. Am I mistaken? She drawled out her words as if she were groaning about it, then sighed as her shoulders drooped. But more than being depressed or anything of the sort, it was more like I'd seen right through her.
それもそうよね。そっちが本題だったわけだし。
Main plan?
なんでもないから。みちるとの約束も関係ないの。
Promise with Michiru? The accident had made it totally slip my mind, but when Misaki pulled Michiru aside before that, was that what she wanted to talk about? I found myself getting curious, but if it was a promise, Misaki probably wouldn't tell me the details. I'll just stick to the issue of recovering from her injury for now.
先輩の言う通りね。演奏を上達させることが目標なんだし。コンクールには出たいけど、結果を出すことにこだわるのは良くないわね。後からついてくるものであって、順位にこだわったら見失っちゃうか。
From what I was seeing, she was almost certainly trying to convince herself of that.
先輩は私のことよく見てるのね。
Well, you know, of course I want to know more about the girl I love.
そればっかり。
She began to relax after saying that. Her worried smile turned into a more natural one. But what was that promise about anyway? Walking back home, we continued to chat carefree as ever. Neither her injury nor her promise with Michiru came up in conversation again. Since she seemed to be back in the mood she was in before the accident, I felt I'd managed to cheer her up. However, I had a little nagging doubt in the back of my head. I kept wondering if that outcome really was for the best. The watch inside my pocket felt even heavier. Later that night, I received a text from Misaki. Evidently, she had suffered a slight fracture to her wrist, and it would likely take at least 2 weeks' time for it to completely heal.
後に残るような怪我ではなかったのは幸いですが。
It's probably not gonna completely heal in time for the contest, right? Ever since Michiru heard about Misaki's injury, she kept worrying about it like it was her own problem. While we were all relieved it wasn't anything serious, when the contest came to mind, there was no room for celebration. Especially since Misaki had protected her from that accident. Undoubtedly, she must have felt responsible for the injury. While I'm sure you'd be aware of this, just try not to apologize to Misaki excessively, alright?
ええ、それ以上の感謝を伝えるつもりです。ですが、兄様からでなくてもよろしいのでしょうか。
I already did, but it's different for you as another female friend of hers. And not only that, you're both competing as rivals in the contest.
そうですね。
There seemed to be something insinuated in her response. And talking of insinuations, there was also the matter of Misaki's little tongue slip. Say, Michiru, have you made any sort of a promise with Misaki lately?
美咲さんから何か聞いたのですか？
Not exactly, but she did mention something about a promise. It was just a slip of the tongue on her part. And it seemed like her goal ended up becoming just to win the contest again too.
約束ですか。
Michiru closed her eyes and thought for a while. Then she slowly shook her head. So it was a secret after all then?
いえ、そもそも約束なんて交わしていませんから。
What? Then what could Misaki have been talking about?
約束というより、兄様と別れていた時に、美咲さんの一方的な宣言ならありました。
I see.
美咲さんは今回のコンクールで私に勝ったら兄様に告白をするそうです。
Oh, out of curiosity, wasn't that supposed to be a secret?
特にそのようなことは言われませんでしたね。
I suppose she must have figured you wouldn't tell me.
だとしたら認識が甘すぎますね。私はいつでも兄様の味方ですよ。
You're really gonna take sides over something like this?
大ありですよ。兄様が喜ぶことが第一ということです。
I was happy and glad to have her support, but should I not have asked about it? Well, she did say she was going to respond to my confession once the contest is over.
兄様からではなく、自分から言うことに意味があるのでしょうね。例えば、コンクールで私に勝ち、自分を認められるようになりたいとか。誰にでも誇れるものを手に入れたいのよ、私は。
I see. I thought she had lost her way, but in fact, that had been her goal all along. She was not competing against Michiru, but against the standards she had built for herself. If she truly wanted to be the best at something, aiming for the best by world standards was an impossibility. So she needed to draw the line somewhere. World standards, national standards, prefectural standards, districtual standards, or even just within the realm of her own school. It was only through pure happenstance that she had drawn that line at Michiru. Had she chosen to compromise, she could have become the best much more easily. Though it was precisely because she refused to compromise that she had impressed me.
つまり、あれは約束などではなく、私に勝てたら兄様をもらうという宣戦布告でした。
Somehow I can see you asking for her parents' consent afterwards. Though that was certainly an admirable goal.
もし優勝したら、その勢いで兄様に抱きついてプロポーズまで行きそうですね。
Now that'd just be embarrassing. Though I'd be more happy than embarrassed for sure. Whoa, shit! My infatuation's on the verge of showing itself again. Misaki probably would be the type to confess to me on stage.
兄様の気持ちは分かっていますが、そこまで喜ばれると妹としては複雑ですね。というより、美咲さんの告白云々も優勝できたらの話ですよ。
Sorry, you're right. You're competing too after all.
ちなみにですが、兄様は私と美咲さん、どちらに勝ってもらいたいですか？
Honestly, I just want both of you to do your best. Enough so that you will have no regrets about it. With that in mind, there wouldn't be any reason in performing if not just to achieve some sort of result. I'll just have to do everything I can for Misaki. And it would be ideal if, at the end of it all, everybody would be able to smile.
Ohayo, senpai. もう起きてるかな？昨日はいろいろと大変だったけど、あんまり心配しないでね。痛みもほとんどないから、いつも通りよろしくね。
I read those texts from Misaki 3 times each from top to bottom before setting my phone down. They were worded much the same way as any of the other good morning text messages she always sent me. Usually, I'd always be quick to respond casually, but this time around, I struggled to think of a reply. She sent these texts at a later time than usual, and they had placed a particular emphasis on her well-being. It was clear as day that she was trying to quell the anxieties I had, despite everything she already had in her hands, in a literal sense. I wished she'd count on me a little more, but given her personality, that would likely prove difficult. If I'm gonna make her count on me, I'd better change my approach a little. Yeah, I'm awake now. But I can't just not worry about you, so I'll keep worrying about you the same as ever. I don't want to pry or anything, but if anything comes up, just tell me, okay? Also, why don't we have lunch together today? "2 hours after I sent her those texts. Before the start of morning homeroom, I came to Misaki's classroom. So basically, I came here to help you out.
どういうわけよ。
Well, I told you in my text, didn't I? I'll keep worrying about you the same as ever. I pointed at her wrist to emphasize my motive. It was plainly visible with the dazzling whiteness of her skin standing out. I could see it was slightly swollen, but she hadn't put a compress or bandages on it at all. Huh, that's strange.
兄様がご奉仕をしてくださると聞きましたが。
Don't word it like that. Since Misaki is injured, I came here to stick my nose into her business.
おせっかいって分かってるんじゃない。けれど、嬉しさが隠しきれない美咲さんは笑顔になってしまうのでした。なってないわよ。嬉しくなっちゃったけど、笑顔は我慢してるわ。
She couldn't get the blush off her face though.
美咲ちゃん、怪我してるの？
Turning around, I saw Miu, who seemed quite surprised to hear the news. Don't tell me Misaki was trying to keep that under wraps or something.
その通りです。
I didn't just mention it aloud, did I?
以心伝心ですね。私としては心だけでなく体もつながりたいのですが。みちるちゃんはちょっと静かにしてね。あ、かしこまりました。
That was quite a terrifying display of authority I just witnessed.
みさきちゃん、怪我っていうほどの怪我じゃないんだけど。先輩、ちょっとこっち来て。みーちゃんには後で話すから。
Misaki, seemingly unable to stand Miu's gaze any longer, took my hand and tried to pull me along, but... She tripped! I stopped her from falling flat on her face by grabbing her hips.
まあ、みさきさんたら教室で抱き合うなんて羨ましい。そこははしたないとかじゃ羨ましいけど。
Misaki, you're not hurt, are you?
ありがとう。じゃないわよ。どうして動いてくれないのよ。
That sounded kind of sexy. I guess a girl's strength won't make me budge from where I stand.
そうじゃなくて、ここは私と一緒に屋上に行くべきでしょ。
Oh, so you wanted to go there.
そうよ。二人でこっそり内緒話がしたいの。
Her wanting to talk to me certainly wasn't a secret, so I guess what she wanted to talk about with me was the secret in question. Got it. Later, Michiru.
あとはお任せください。みーさんには今節丁寧に説明させていただきます。
Well, just give her the Cliff's notes. I guess Miu's gonna be in on Misaki's injury now as well. That should put less pressure on Misaki whenever she gets asked about it. Though I'm pretty sure that the same circumstances wouldn't apply to how she'd taken me by the hand like that. Undoubtedly, by the time she returned to class, the rumors would be spreading like wildfire.
で、ご奉仕って何よ。
That's just how Michiru worded it. As I was saying, I came to help you out.
そうだったわね。でもお世話って私は平気ってメールにも書いたじゃない。もしかして怪我のことを気に病んでるの？
I'm not gloomy about it, but I'm certainly worried. That's your dominant hand, so not being able to make use of it as much could be a problem, right? Like when they call you to the blackboard or something.
そうね。
Not only that, you hadn't even told Miu about it yet back there. I know you don't want to make people worry, but isn't that kinda counterproductive?
そうよね。私が逆の立場ならすっごく心配するだろうし、先輩との話が終わってから説明するわ。
It looks like Michiru's taking care of that. Still, you should follow up with her later.
何してくれてるのよ。
I figured if Miu knew about it beforehand, it'd make her less worried about you.
そうかもだけど、みちるのことだから余計なことまで吹き込みそうだもん。嘘を言わなくても紛らわしい言い方したり、純粋なみーちゃんは騙されちゃうわ。
Misaki seemed just as innocent and liable to getting the wrong idea as her, though. Well, just try to trust Michiru on this. It's you we are worried about here after all.
授業のノートは後でみーちゃんに借りるから大丈夫よ。
Well then, I guess that just leaves the matter of feeding you, so that can be my role.
それこそみーちゃんにお願いするわよ。
Well, not like I mind. At my instantaneous response, Misaki's expression suddenly froze. Her eyes closed for a moment, as if she were deep in thought, and the tension gradually seeped away from her lips.
あんまりみーちゃんに頼ってばかりはダメよね。先輩も気にしてそうだし、手伝わせてあげなくっちゃダメだし。仕方ない。これは仕方ないのよ。
But I don't think Mio would mind. She might even offer to help without you needing to ask.
毎日お願いするわけにもいかないし。
Couldn't you just try eating things you could manage with just one hand?
それはそうだけど。いやいや、そんなの栄養が偏っちゃうからダメでしょ。
There's certainly other ways of dealing with that.
工夫とかそんな。そこで頑張らなくてもいいじゃない。
Fair enough. It seems like that'd be unhealthy in a completely different way.
そうよ。不自由を強いるのは体に悪いわ。
I suppose if you were to eat stuff that's delicious and healthy, you will recover a little faster. Misaki's expression kept changing by the second. Naturally, it was adorable to see.
そう。だったら今日のお昼から早速お願いするわね。今日のお弁当食べづらいものだったし。
Why did she take that sort of lunch with her to start with anyway? Did she do it on purpose? Was this her plan from the very beginning? That wouldn't change me having to feed her though, so what the hell? Right, then I'll come over to your classroom at lunch. How about we invite Miu and Michiru to join in too? The four of us.
さもいいこと思いついたように言わないでよ。みんなに見られちゃうじゃない。
I'm just trying to keep the first year boys in check, showing off how nicely we get along and all.
する必要ないから。私はそんなに軽い女じゃないの。
Yeah, I trust you on that. I'm just worried they'll try to swarm you.
ちゃんと断るから大丈夫よ。
So she really does intend to confess to me, though it's not like I was expecting any different. Roger that. So, we'll have lunch up here then?
他の人は連れてこないでよ。
Got it. And also, is it alright if I can only help you out with lunch?
もしかして家まで来てくれるの？
Nah, I guess that'd be kinda tough in the mornings and evenings.
そうだよね。
Still, I'll make an effort to help you out, no matter what.
どうして？さすがにそこまでは頼れないかな。お父さんとお母さんもいるんだから。泊まり込みとかしたら同棲みたいになっちゃうでしょ。
I think she got too carried away with that one. That certainly came like a bat out of hell. I guess we'll have to keep taking things step by step, like a proper relationship. Well, outside of school stuff, I'll leave everything up to your family. Also, how about walking to school together?
それってみちるに付き添う DD 先輩みたいに？
I guess I can't wake you up in the morning, though.
先輩も起こしてもらってるの？
Sometimes, though lately I've been trying to wake up earlier. I have your text to thank for that. I should have left well enough alone there. I wondered if I should use the watch, but instead I ended up giving Misaki a backhanded compliment to settle the matter. Guess I'm gonna end up having to give her a wake-up call tomorrow morning. I thought that was weird enough in itself, but oh well.